Hello and welcome. You are listening to Education Through Music, the podcast. I'm your host, Noah, and in today's episode, I'm bringing you a conversation with Arielle Lewis. Arielle is the orchestra director and ukulele ensemble director, as well as a general music teacher at CS 55 in the South Bronx. Arielle and I work very closely together because she is a member of my cohort of teachers within ETM. The question we're considering today is, how can the music classroom be a place where students learn trust and care, in addition to musical concepts and practices? And that's a subject into which Arielle has particular insight. So let's get right into it. Arielle, what brought you to the field of music education?
Well, my family is made up of all musicians, pretty much. All my brothers either play an instrument or sing. My father is a saxophone player. My grandfather used to play the steel pan, and he was more reggae, super Jamaican, but he used to play the steel pan, and he used to sing like literally with like the fake Jamaican hat and the fake dreads, like at events. That was like what he did. That was his thing.
Okay.
And so I pretty much knew I would do music forever. I did not plan on being an educator until I went to college, and I started tutoring there because I went for performance. I was like, I'm going to be the next Beyonce or like, Lauryn Hill or somebody. And no. So when I started tutoring, I was like, oh, wow, like I'm good at this. I'm personable. People were passing. And I think that's what I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see this every day, because I had people who were like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm failing. And then I would tutor them and then they would start passing, and it felt so good. More so for selfish reasons, because I was like, look how good I am at this that I taught somebody else. So yeah. So after that, I was like, I want to change my major to music education to see what it was like. And I loved it. So here I am.
I think that that's something that sometimes gets lost in discussions with and about music educators, because there is something that feels very personally, it feels good to be good at teaching.
Right, it does.
When you're sharing something with a student, it is for them, but it's also for you.
Right.
I think that that's a good thing to remember, because it's not all selfless. It's
right.
There's a lot of
especially
the self that
like
goes into it.
The musician part of it, I feel like we're all kind of like just slightly vain, where we're like, yes, I am absolutely here for the children, but I am absolutely here to show off my skills to children every single day. And when I play that piano, I could be playing Fuzzy Wuzzy Was a Bear, and I'm playing it like I'm at the Met. Like they're
Right.
like just playing C chords, going from do to sol, playing like I'm trying to show off. And they love that too. Like,
Right.
It's not like I'm doing it for me and they're just like, Miss Lewis, what are you doing? Please stop. They're like, yes, show us more. You're the best. And we both love it.
Right. As far as they're concerned, this is the Met.
It is the Met in here. My classroom is the Met every day from 8 to 2.
Anybody who is an elementary school teacher in general is some kind of a performer.
Right.
So bringing that performance background into teaching music in particular, but really anything. You could be teaching math or literacy. You'd be putting on some sort of a performance.
And I feel when I get excited, even if I'm singing just Fuzzy Wuzzy Was a Bear, if I get excited and they see me really performing this song that we all know is just a children's song, then maybe they'll get excited and perform that way for me too at the concerts.
Right.
So
that's modeling. You're modeling the whole time. That's great. So you have been here at CS 55 for...
I feel like I just got here, but it's weird because when people say this is your 4th year, I'm just like, oh my gosh, how? I still feel like I just graduated college. But it's not until I realize, like when the students and I have certain conversations that my first year we could have never had, or just the rapport that I have with students. My first year, it was like Like I was a dentist in the classroom pulling teeth, trying to get students to listen to me instead of music making. Where year 4, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I say be quiet and they actually listen to me. They're like, you have to listen to Miss Lewis. So there are certain things that definitely make me feel the years I've been here. But, as a whole, I still, when I say 4 years, I cannot believe that I've been here for that long.
Right. And some of that time, of course, was during the,
Yes.
remote instruction and then hybrid instruction. And
Yes.
so I think that has a collapsing effect on the time, but also an expanding effect on the time.
Right. It's a weird phenomenon. It's very weird.
Yeah. So could you walk me through some of what went on over the course of, well, I guess the whole past 4 years, because that's your time directly before the pandemic, during the pandemic, which is still happening, but as far as schools are concerned, it's largely over.
Right. It's normal
to now.
Normalcy now. So when I first came here, I started this school directly after being at one of the, I still have nightmares about this school sometimes, like seriously, in real life. Post-traumatic stress from this school. It was like I was like a correctional officer instead.
Oh, no.
It was, oh my gosh. So I went from there going to a new school. So I kind of had, that feeling in the pit of my chest, like maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing.
You had some reluctance.
Right. I was in the mindset of if this does not go well, then I just should not be a teacher because it probably wasn't the school, it was me. And the students were amazing from day one, but I hadn't yet built the confidence as a teacher because my first year, I wasn't really teaching that much. I was just trying to get children to stay alive.
Yeah, you were surviving.
Right.
You were hoping the kids would survive.
I almost feel like I started my teaching career here because this is the first school. When I first started, it was right away. I had ensembles. I didn't have my orchestra yet, but I had a ukulele ensemble starting. And then I had a musical theater program after school. So immediately it was like, you're a music teacher. Here we go. So by December, I was super excited. Like, yes, I'm doing my job. I love it. Until I went to other music teachers' concerts. And I was like, wow, we're not really doing much of anything. I thought we were awesome. So I feel like after that, once I got, okay, I have classroom management. I think they like me. It wasn't until I was here for maybe 6 months when it was, I really want these students to make music and sound well and be happy about what they're performing. But I didn't know how to do that. So my first year here, it was just, I am trying to pull from everywhere I can, get advice where I can. And my second year here during COVID, even though I was not remote during this part of COVID, that is when I truly felt like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I have ensembles, they're playing, they're doing excellent. It's been interesting building a teaching repertoire and, teaching experience with COVID and all of that going on. But I am glad I had this school and the students, with me. Because, in that other school, I don't know if we would have had that. Yeah. But yeah, since then, from feeling like I wasn't really doing much of anything to now we have a string orchestra, we have ukulele ensemble, we're trying to start a guitar program, we still have musical theater coming up. So just to see what I've expanded in that little bit of time, even though it feels a little bit of time, it's nice to see.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you sort of started from scratch, but you started from scratch on a plot of land that was like fertile and ready to grow something, which is very different from starting from scratch on rock. Right?
Yeah, just famined land.
Right. Yeah. So the things that you were seeing in other concerts were maybe a little bit further along in the succession of putting together music programming that is sustainable and has gone somewhere and has had the time really to grow and to expand and to look more professional. Mm-hmm. But I mean, as far as everything I've seen from CS55 is looking great, and it's looking like it's and things are getting better all the time.
Right. One thing I love about this school that I can't speak for everybody's school, but the students really do try in this one. It warms my heart when I see that they're struggling with something. And, some students, which I get, because I was kind of like that as a kid, like, oh, I'm not good at this. Let's toss it. What am I naturally good at? But students, I see them struggling like in the most beautiful way to get something. And then when they finally get it, that moment, I feel like when I'm in college, when I was tutoring again, like, yes. So especially versus my other school, they try so hard and they are hardworking and give up their recess time and give up their lunch time to come do music with me. So
COVID posed a lot of challenges for every educator. Nobody really came through remote and hybrid teaching completely unscathed. But beyond the background hardship of dealing with all of the challenges posed by COVID, you had some other challenges to face while you were building your program at CS55. So I wonder if you could share with us a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh, well, whoever is listening, buckle your seats. Buckle your seats, because where do I even start? So I am so happy that you get to see me as the real person I really am when I am working as my supervisor. Because every other supervisor I ever had at ETM has only seen me under turmoil and probably thinks that is just how I work. That is just how I work. Just sad. So when I first got to ETM, I think within 2 weeks, my grandfather died. And I had to take some days off of work for that. We got settled in, and then we had a I was in an apartment. I had a life-changing flood. During that flood, the flooding that happened in the Bronx, that was like really bad, if you remember that. Yeah. I forgot which hurricane that was. It's September 2021. Yes, September 2021. Mm-hmm. I basically, everything in my apartment was pretty much flooded out. We didn't have an apartment anymore because it was gone. So then I had to move to my grandmother's house, which was in Long Island. So now I'm traveling from Long Island to the South Bronx every single day because of the flood. And then my grandmother's house gets set on fire and we lose the house. And all of this happened within like a 6-month trajectory of itself. The flood happening, me moving, all of this, and then the fire happening. And this is during concert time. This is during a time where I'm not supposed to be absent, or honestly, where admin is not really expecting you to go through personal things that take over your work and your job, because we have things to do at the end of the day.
Concert comes first.
Right. Yes, we do care about the fire, but the concert is in 3 days. What are we going to do? Right. So it was interesting maneuvering those situations, but I can honestly say, because during that time, I don't think I had it in me to hide from students and, oh, nothing's happening. So I came into school very candid. I lost my house yesterday and I don't have anywhere to live, but I'm here. We're doing the concerts. Everything is great. And honestly, I think me being candid with my students allowed them to work with me in a way that I've never had them work with me before, which is, I almost sometimes want to remind them, remember guys, I had that fire last year. Don't act up that fire, because everybody came to school and was just literally even saying out loud, let's not make Miss Lewis's day even harder. She lost her house. And it was so, yes, it was sad, but every day when I would come in, people were handing me cards, students were handing me cards, and they were writing me notes, and they were leaving things in my mailbox. And this happened from even when the flood happened, and then the fire happened. So, and I bought a house since then. So I don't want to say, because that sounds bad when you say, it was a good thing that fire happened, because that's horrible, But so many good things have happened because of the fire, and I've gotten so much closer to my students because of the fire. So I'm not going to say that the fire was good, but I am going to say that I found a silver lining in the fire and all the personal things that happened to me, because I didn't hide them. I shared them with my students, and I think even they looked at me like, wow, she's telling us stuff. She wants to talk to us. It's not just get in, quarter note, leave. We were having conversations, and even how we might feel if it happened to us. Or then people were telling me their own stories that happened to them about floods and fires. And I got to know my students a lot more than I would have because of the fire.
I think hardship is one of these things that is a part of everyone's life at some point. And, the same flooding that impacted you in 2021 would have impacted a lot of your students as well,
Right.
who are living in the same part of the South Bronx. So,
Mhm.
so this openness also gives your students a chance to practice care. You are a part of their life, they are a part of
Right.
your life. And so that openness, I think, is really important, because it is something that is sort of fundamental to just being in community with one another, is experiencing hardship and turmoil, and then also recognizing when someone else is experiencing that, and being able to sort of share your care with the people around you, and
Right.
being open with your students, and letting them know, like, just so we're clear, like, the reason I'm looking a little disheveled right now,
Because I was.
yeah,
Because I was. I really was.
it's
Yes.
because I'm going through something.
Right.
And
The
then
reason
they
why I
can-
have on sweatpants and Crocs is because this is what I was wearing. This is what I have, but I'm here.
right.
And they loved it. Honest, I wouldn't say they loved it. They didn't love that I was going through hard things, but they really did love that I was sharing with them. I even heard them saying, like, teachers don't tell us this kind of stuff. Like, you know? So and it made me take a little mental note, like, okay, I don't have to treat you like you're little babies, because sometimes we forget, like, when we were 10, we weren't as naive as adults made us seem.
Yeah.
Like, we knew things. 10-year-olds know things, sometimes more than me. So I don't want to treat them like they're know-it-alls, but sometimes it's like, let's see if we can talk like this, and if it works, yay, and if not, then we can always backtrack, and we can meet each other in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So what was the role of music in your life and in the life of your family during that time when you were going through all of this turmoil?
Honestly, when it comes to, like, family and friends, I wouldn't say not so much there, but I was giving private lessons out of the home, out of the basement of my home. And that allowed me in that moment to, because I've never really go to people's house and give, only because honestly, sometimes you don't know what happens in people's houses. So I don't know who I'm giving private lessons to sometimes. So I don't know. But no, it allowed me to go to my private students' homes and get to know them and eat their food. Because everybody, one thing that happens when you go through tragedy, everybody wants to give you food. And I love to eat. So I was just eating their food and talking to them on a more personal level than I would have if it weren't for that. So even some of them after that, we've gone to brunch and actually, like, became friends when it was just okay, here, come, let's play, let's sing together. That was great, leave, give me my $50. We actually became, close, and I talk to you about something, so now you're kind of giving me something, and I'm giving you more, and you're giving me more, and now all of a sudden we're friends and we're talking on the weekends.
Yeah, that's really a thing. It's like when you share a meal with someone, that's such a
something
huge,
about it.
Right.
And I will share a meal with almost anyone because I love to eat. So, right, I almost felt bad. Like, wow, I didn't realize how interesting all of you were.
Right.
And I've been teaching some of them for 2 years. It's like we have fun, but it's never not about the music. But that was a point in my life, which is kind of opposite of what you're asking, but it was a point in my life where everything that is usually about music, I kind of, switched it and made it a little more personal, and music was still there, but I needed to talk about personal things and what was going on, and music is always there, but I had a lot more on my heart than music at that moment, and it allowed me to show that to other people that I usually wouldn't have, and, they felt comfortable and gave me something back too.
Well, speaking of sharing meals, I recently got to join your CS55 ukulele choir at YouTube headquarters in Chelsea, and we had a nice little pizza lunch after a performance, but I don't want to give everything away. Tell us a little bit about that event, that experience.
If I'm starting leading up to the experience, it was nerve-wracking and stress-inducing. I wouldn't say in a horrible way, but some things can be good and stress-inducing at the same time.
Yeah.
But our ukulele ensemble was formed a month before we had a big performance at YouTube. And
right, so the performance was last week sometime, right?
Yes.
So like early December. and your ukulele group formed. I remember it was like
November
November
1st.
1st. Yeah.
And everybody wasn't at that November 1st rehearsal.
Right. just the true believers were there for the first one, and then you had some other folks trickle in later.
Oh my goodness. So honestly, I can't. From that day to the day of the YouTube performance is such a blur, and like a beautiful blur, but it's a blur. It's just a big bang blur.
Yeah.
And one thing I can say, and I know I've said it like 5 times already, but the way my students stuck by me during that time was unbelievable. I wish I had $1 million so that I could give them the best gift that they ever had in their life. I'd buy them all a puppy, because it was, I almost asked them to do something impossible where they didn't know how to play this instrument at all. We have like 2 classes a week, and it was, we're going to play 3 songs for YouTube, and we're going to play them like we know them, and like we've been playing them since last year. And none of them ever went, Miss Lewis, this is crazy. We cannot do this. What do you mean? Another note, another song? One of the songs I taught them like 20 minutes before a dress rehearsal. And they were just like, none of them ever said, Miss Lewis, no. They were like, all right. Even sometimes I see the look on their faces, like they're like, what is she bringing us to? But they would always go. Right. And oh my gosh, I cannot thank them enough for the dedication that they gave me during that time. And I think that it showed when we went to the YouTube performance, because everybody looked so happy to see them, and it was warming my heart.
Yeah, I mean, the dedication really came through. And I think what really stood out to me about that group is the level of trust they have in you, which I think...
It's a little scary.
Well, with great power comes great responsibility. And you held up your end of the bargain, and it was a great show. But to go out and perform live is a scary thing. It's a scary thing for me, and I've been doing it for a number of years. Mm-hmm. It's a scary thing for Sean's over here nodding his head. And you know, he's a great performer, but it's scary. And so to be a 5th grader and to look up at a teacher who's telling you like, yeah, we're going to go out and we're going to perform for some people you don't know, but trust me, they're important. Right. That's a big thing. But they did it, and they were excited about it. And afterwards, everybody was so energized, and they were saying like, this is the best field trip I've ever gone on. So that's where it comes to the vain thing again. When you're like, I teach for me. No, I don't teach for me. But that feeling of this is the best field trip ever, it almost feels better than the performance. Almost. Right. Not quite, but almost feels better, because, yes, we do things for the students, but nobody would want to do something that not only they don't enjoy, but everybody around them doesn't enjoy them doing. Right. Right. It wouldn't make me feel like a good teacher if everybody was like, oh, music again. Right. Right. It would be very difficult to feel like you could fully pour yourself into something if it weren't for the fact that that at some point in the process, after all of the hard work and right before during that sort of like celebratory phase of like, oh, this concert's about to wrap up and everything's gone great and people are loving it, that's going to be this like highest possible apex kind of like culminating moment. Yeah. I think otherwise it would be very difficult to do this kind of work, because it is a lot of work. Right. It is. I think sometimes people don't see that. If you're a music teacher, you obviously absolutely see it. Oh yeah, you know the grind if you're a music teacher. Oh gosh, I feel like even if you're a musician, I feel like you can get it. Yeah. But some teachers around the school, I think they see, students, they're having so much fun, or they're laughing, and so they don't really see the hard work that's put in. They're just like, okay, they're having music, they're gonna laugh and be silly for 45 minutes. Teacher, you have it easy, you get to do the fun thing. But it's like putting on shows. It's even when it's just 4th and 5th grade, some people think, oh, it's just 4th and nobody's expecting anything from them. But I want them to expect it from them. I don't care what the audience expects. I want them to, what's the point of handing a student an instrument and saying we're going to play for people if we're not expecting them to at least feel like they're playing well? You know what I mean? So it would be great to just hand them an instrument and go on stage and do anything. You know what I mean? And I'm sure we'd have just as much of a good time.
But it makes them feel good when they're like, oh my gosh, Miss Lewis, I could not play that note 2 weeks ago. And look at me playing it like I've been playing it all my life now. And that's why, right? That's why we do it. It's hard work getting a student there. Just like a student who doesn't know 2 + 2 yesterday and now he knows it today. I'm sure that's not easy.
That transgression of the boundary between not musician and musician, or that bringing out of these innate qualities in children that wouldn't necessarily be a part of their day-to-day existence, and providing these opportunities for heightened experiences is, that's just it's a lot to do, but it ends up being this very special thing that you get to share with.
It makes all the claps that I do in class worth it. It makes it worth it.
Well, actually, it really does. If you think about, this is something that I'm thinking about all the time, is like with especially with a very large group of children, it is not a natural thing for 30 children to sit quietly and listen.
Even 30 adults, it's very difficult.
Absolutely.
Even for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, at the PDs, I have to constantly tell myself, don't speak out of turn. Don't talk. Don't shake the egg when they gave it to you. So for somebody who's 10, oh my gosh.
Right. And so any call to attention, for it to work, the children have to know that whatever is coming at the end of that call to attention is worth their attention.
Right.
Otherwise, it starts to break down. It doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And so I think that when you can provide these experiences, and we were talking before we hit the record button about how, when the kids got back from the YouTube performance, the deal was tell all your friends that it was the most fun you've ever had.
Make them jealous. The people who didn't want to be in ukulele ensemble, make them wish they were inside of it. Yes.
Right. Because you've got 5th graders who are graduating, and they're going to go off to their middle school. So you've got to replace those students who are graduating out. And so you got to build that interest amongst the 4th graders and 3rd graders and everything. You gotta make them excited about when they get to 5th grade, and they've got all these competing interests but you got to bring them in the door. But the more of these heightened experiences that you can provide the children through performances off-site, even performances in your own auditorium, the more you can be confident that what is coming after that call to attention, that clap, is going to be worth the kids' attention. And the more they're going to know that whatever it is that you have to say is going to be worth it. And I think that must be a really big part of what you have cultivated here over the course of 4 years, is this trust, this closeness with the children, but this understanding that they have that what they can expect in this room, in this music classroom, and all of the experiences associated with it are going to be worth their attention and their time.
Right. You said it, not me. You said it. I'm just going to say, right. Yes, absolutely. You said it. But I definitely see that my students feel comfortable with me in music class. And I love that. I really do love that, because sometimes I'm not comfortable. Now I'm just like, sometimes I'm not comfortable. I'm like, oh my gosh, friends, if you realize that sometimes I don't know what to do with you, or not even like it's your fault, but sometimes I'm just like, where do we go from here? I don't know. And they look at me and they're like, wherever that is, Miss Lewis, we're coming. And that feels so good. It makes me not feel like, sometimes when you're planning something, you're like, oh, I don't know if they'll like that. Maybe I won't do that. It makes me think, we'll do it. If they don't like it, oh well, we'll scrap it and do something else, because I know that they trust me enough to say, we don't like that. It's okay. But I know you have something else, Miss Lewis, because you always do. Right. Versus if they didn't trust me, they would be like, we don't like that, and we don't like you, because why are you bringing things to us?
And we're leaving.
Right, we're leaving. We don't like that. I quit. That was horrible. But with them, if they don't like something I do for a class, they'll say, it's almost like they're like, oh, okay, that was a one-off, but Miss Lewis got it. She's okay. Right. So I love that too, because it gives me room to make mistakes, because I'm still human. I tell them that all the time. I'm not going to always be perfect. Just like your favorite show, you have an episode or two you don't like, right? Yeah. That's same
Sometimes
with me.
Even an entire season.
Right. But still come back for the next season, because maybe there's a chance, right?
Right. Well, that's really one of those things where it's a sort of sympathetic audience, which you get to see sometimes. Like you go to a performance and someone is like having a rough time with their page turner, or
Right.
string goes out of tune. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, everybody, got a tune real quick. The audience isn't going to groan and say like, oh, get off the stage. They're,
They're gonna be like, you got this.
Yeah, they'll clap. They'll say, you got this. And that is a really nice thing. If you're in that position, because we've all been there at some point where like the show is just not going the way it's supposed to be going. But a sympathetic audience really makes all the difference. So that's that, tying back in with this idea of the teacher as performer, cultivating that sympathetic audience is a small part of it.
I need to write this down because we have concerts next week. We should really teach the students about being sympathetic audiences because we do not know. We do not know how unpredictable the show will be. So
you are a vocalist.
Yes.
And a violinist.
Yes.
And a violist too, right?
Nah.
A little bit. Okay, got it. Okay. Check. So, how did you end up working with a ukulele ensemble at school?
So, ETM had a PD in 2021, I believe. 2020, 2021, something like that, where we had to play ukuleles. And before then, I knew, because, in college, when you're a music ed major, they make you hold every instrument and dabble in it pretty much. So I had played a ukulele in college, but I knew, I think, a C chord and A minor, and that was it. Like, I didn't know anything else. So
playing the hits.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. So it wasn't until we were playing, I forgot what song it was, but it was one of those ukulele play-alongs on YouTube, and they had it in the PD, and as it was going, she was just shouting out the chords, and like, the fingerings were right there, and I was playing along to the song, and I didn't even know how to play the instrument. So I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how, I wouldn't say easy, because I'm sure to do a lot more, it's not easy, but I didn't know how easy it was to get started on a ukulele, right? To get started.
When you get started on violin, it doesn't sound good I still don't sound good on the violin.
Right.
Yeah.
And honestly, and it's one of those things where if you stop, I'm not saying you lose it, but
it's not like riding a bike.
Oh my gosh, it's not. When I picked up that violin for this class, I haven't played a violin. It's been a while. And I was like, oh wow.
Yeah,
I didn't remember. Wow.
Can tell. Yeah.
I was just like, oh my gosh, do I even remember how to play this instrument? It hurt my feelings. It really did.
Yeah.
But with ukulele, honestly, you could pick it up and in 5 minutes, you could be successful at something. So it wasn't until then I was like, oh my gosh, I need ukuleles in my school. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I need to do this. Because if it was this easy for me, I'm not saying it would be that easy for them because I'm a musician, obviously, but it was not hard.
It's a low barrier to entry.
Right. And I was playing it, the strings were so close together, and I was thinking about their little tiny fingers, and it's a small instrument, not like guitar where some of my students, I don't know, like a lot of them could, but like my little students, some of them, it would be very hard.
Right.
So I brought ukulele here, and then we had about 10 of them. And this was during COVID still, so class sizes were still super small, where I only had like 7 in a class. So I was like, let's just make a ukulele class for a month, a ukulele unit. And when I saw how my general classes were picking it up so fast, I was like, we need an ensemble. And then I asked for permission, and they were like, we probably couldn't get that started right now. We don't know. And then I got it started, and it happened in 2 weeks. And we were playing at the winter concert.
Instead of permission. Yeah.
Right. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, I'm not keeping them after school. I'm not. So it was just like, taking them from lunch and stuff. I was like, I don't really need permission to do that. So we got started. And honestly, by the time we had the ukuleles in for the winter concert, assistant principal and principal was like, oh my gosh, ukulele ensemble, it's awesome. When did we even start this? You're awesome and amazing. We didn't even know you were doing this. I was just like, yes, I know. Look at us. We're awesome. So yeah. And it's the only bad thing about my ukulele ensemble is that we don't do it with the younger grades. So by the time we get everybody great, and I'm like, yes, we're playing songs. We have like a repertoire of 10, and then they graduate. And now I start from scratch every single year.
Some middle school music teacher doesn't even realize what they've inherited.
What a ukulele master they have in their class. They don't know. And it's not like we have enough money to be like, everybody gets to take their ukulele home and continue on their journey in middle school. It's kind of like, oh, thank you for having fun with us. Hope you can get one for Christmas.
Yeah, leave your ukulele by the door.
Please do not take that home. We have the serial number. We need it now.
We gotta figure out who your students are going to for middle school, and like send
Right.
them with a like do a little handoff.
Like something.
Yeah.
I would love that. I would hate for some of my students to never play ukulele again because they get I wouldn't say like, virtuoso, but
but
they
it's
get
pretty
really
hype.
right.
Yeah.
They know how to play some songs by June.
Right.
That would impress people. Like, a little beach party. They could bring the ukulele and play for people like how my son does. No, nobody else does that. But yeah, I love how easy it is for them to pick it up. Even when we had that performance, I was like, oh my gosh, they don't know anything. And by the end of one class, we were learning a chord every class, and it was great. And versus the guitar where
too bulky for
it's a
a
little,
lot of kids.
it's a little bulky. But
and the violin, it takes a really long time.
right,
to get that
it's the
good
only
intonation.
and honestly, some of them, they see the ukulele. I know it's not a guitar, but they're like, close enough.
Right.
This is great.
I'm now
awesome.
a rock star.
Yes, I know how to play instruments because I'm a musician now.
Yeah.
So they love it. I love it, and it's not something that it feels like a lot of pressure while I'm teaching. Like, oh my gosh, not the right finger. It's very, it's an informal-ish instrument where we can kind of lay back as we teach instead of me feeling like I'm like drilling the music into their heads.
Posture. Yeah. Our recording got cut short at the end by the arrival of some of Arielle's students for after-school instrumental ensemble rehearsals, so I didn't get a chance to say thank you so much, Arielle, for spending the time with me and for talking through your story as well as these really important ideas of care and trust in the music classroom. And while I'm at it, thank you, dear listener, for joining us as well. Concert season is upon us, and the next episode of Education Through Music, which will be coming out in early January, will be about concert season. I'll be sitting down with some music teachers to talk about their winter concerts. We'll be listening to some audio of these concerts and generally discussing best practices and not so best practices, so that this time next year we'll have even more tricks up our sleeves for putting together a great show. So until next time, thanks for listening and take care.